Each one of these pins represents an encounter that couldn't be explained. Screams and whoops echoing through the forest. Hundreds of massive human-like footprints found across the Pacific Northwest. Wood knocks. Thousands of eyewitnesses, each with strikingly similar stories.
It was walking perfectly normal on 2 feet, and then it turned around and looked right at us, and we could see it fully.
All of them pointing to something. Sasquatch, Bigfoot, Buckwas, or scientifically, Gigantopithecus. But my question is, where is it?
1967, 20th of October, myself and Bob Gimlin were going out into Northern California area. It's in the Humboldt County there. We had been in this area trying to find evidence of the giant creatures called Bigfoot or Sasquatch. I then looked over to my left and I seen this creature, and it was standing by the creek there about 120 feet away from us. I yelled at Bob to cover me in case the creature did turn and attack us.
Last night, we traveled to the edge of the Nitnat River. It winds its way through this valley before emptying into Nitnat Lake, a 20-kilometer-long saltwater fjord shaped by the ocean's tides here on Vancouver Island. It's connected to the Pacific Ocean by a narrow 3-kilometer channel, allowing salmon and shellfish to push inland, creating an abundant food source for large species like bears. And according to the First Nations who have inhabited and protected this land for generations, it's not just bears taking advantage of this food source. Before even coming out here, we wanted to get the stories of this mysterious hominoid creature before it entered the mainstream media and pop culture in the early 70s. So our journey has taken us here, to the small town of Nitnat, home of the Dididat people.
We just pulled into the small town of Nitnat, and currently heading towards the band office to try and get some information or a lead on somebody we can talk to get the First Nations backstory on Sasquatch.
For many First Nations along the coast of Vancouver Island and the wider Pacific Northwest, the phenomenon we call Bigfoot is not treated as a myth or speculation. It's just a matter of fact. Among Coast Salish nations, stories describe the wild men of the woods, large, human-like beings who live deep in the forest. They aren't viewed as cryptids, but as part of the natural and spiritual order, intelligent, elusive, and deeply connected to the land. These beings exist on the boundary between human and non-human worlds, acting less as monsters and more as guardians of balance. Encounters often occur when someone breaks cultural or environmental protocols, over-harvesting, disrespecting territory, or mistreating others. Coastal traditions also include darker figures that are often mistaken for Sasquatch in modern retellings. One is Zinukwa, the wild woman of the woods, a giant, dark-haired woman with sunken eyes, protruding lips, and a distinctive whistle. She appears at the outskirts of villages at night, carrying a cedar basket, and is said to abduct children who stray from safety. Another is Buckwas, the man of sea foam. Unlike forest beings, Buckwas is tied to shorelines, gaunt, ghost-like, seen gathering shellfish at low tide. He belongs to the spirit world, and in some traditions can draw the living in if they accept food from him. These stories aren't simply supernatural tales. They were teachings, warnings about respecting the land, staying close to community, and understanding one's place within the natural world. We're making our way to Knob Point, an abandoned wreck site tucked along the lake's edge, directly across from Nitnat. The government closed it down over a decade ago, blaming its isolation and poor condition. We've been out here twice before, and on our second visit, long after the forest had gone still, one of our friends heard a sharp, deliberate knock, echoing from the dark ridgeline above us. It was quick, it was distant, and it didn't sound like anything that should have been out there.
Alright, so we made it over top of the ridge now, and we're down near the water. And for those of you who haven't seen me come down here in the past, we're going to be heading up the coastline. There's the old abandoned recreation site up on that point, and then behind it is just all mountains. So it's going to be a good night on this pretty secluded location.
And in 2003, somebody had a far more personal experience driving home from this wreck site. A group had been camping on the west end of Nitnat Lake for a full moon in August. 30, maybe 40 people. After 3 days of non-stop rain, a pair of them decided to pack up and head out late in the afternoon. The weather had eased, but the road was foggy, gray, and empty. About 20 kilometers up the north side of the lake, they crested a small rise, and that's where it happened. They spotted something tall, standing on the shoulder. At first, they thought it was an elk, but as they drew closer, the figure turned its head towards them in a sharp, almost jumping motion. Long hair swung forward over the shoulders, and then, in a sudden burst of movement, it dropped into a squat and launched itself into the ditch with long, swinging arm movements, the way primates do. Their dog went wild, barking and lunging inside the van. It didn't stop. They drove straight through, too rattled to even look back. A moment later, both of them admitted they had seen the same thing. We believe the location they were camping was Knob Point.
So I just saw a fallen tree out of the way as we're working our way up the coast here. This is a lot more overgrown than the last time that I was here. There's a lot more deadfall. This place gets basically no visitors.
Here, on this small outcropping of land, wedged between the lake and the mountain on the northwest end of Nitnat Lake, is Knob Point. So we've arrived down at Knob Point, and then right up behind us, it's just a giant mountain range, and behind us is all of Nitnat Lake. So this is a pretty isolated area, and we're gonna get our camp all set up, and then we're gonna go for a walk up the old road that goes along the base here, and go set up some game cameras. Stepping out, the floor's rotted out. Definitely an isolated wreck site. We're gonna walk down the road here, go look for any signs, see what we can find. Right down in here, all the shrubbery is all kind of pushed over, like something's been working its way down to the water. Right down there, all of the slough is actually pushed over. You see two little splits. Alright, so to help us out, to see if anything snoops around camp tonight, I got two game cams. I'm going to put one here, kind of facing towards the tree there, and I'm going to stick an apple on top of that tree. And there is that game trail that runs down to our camp, and then I'm going to put one down near the bay there. So get this all set up. Am I a believer of Sasquatch? Not fully. I'm skeptical. I've yet to see anything that resembles Bigfoot with my own eyes. But I've also only ever seen one cougar in my life, and I've grown up on Vancouver Island, home of the largest cougar population in North America. I think Les Stroud put forward the question perfectly. There are two very different ways to approach the Bigfoot question. The first is the one most people ask. Do you believe in Bigfoot? It's straightforward, but it doesn't leave much room for nuance. The second way is more complicated and far more interesting. It asks whether it's possible that a bipedal ape or an undiscovered hominoid species could exist in remote regions of the world or even in dense pockets of wilderness closer to home. Could such a species account for the thousands of reports collected over the decades? The rock throwings, the vocalizations, the tracks, sightings, the fragments of footage that continue to surface. When framed that way, it becomes a far more compelling question, something worth investigating, and I want answers.
Alright, so it's 11:47. We all just crawled into our tents for the night. We did a couple of wood knocks, but nothing really strange happened. Heard a couple weird sounds, investigated them. They didn't really lead to anything, so we're gonna all head to sleep now, and we'll see what the night holds. If anything strange happens, I will let you know.
Shortly after heading off to sleep, something tripped both game cameras. The camera placed on the trail got triggered at midnight, and the one on the beach got set off at 12:06. Neither photo showed anything in frame. It could have been a breeze. Could have been something just out of frame.
It's not morning. Just came out to grab the game cameras. Nothing really happened last night. It was quiet. It was peaceful down here. I don't really know what's on these cameras till I get home, but yeah. It was a good night.
Our apple is still here, untouched. Nothing's really changed.
The game cam's gone!
With a quiet and uneventful night on the shore's edge of Nitnat Lake, we set out for the small coastal town of Port Renfrew. There is a cluster of unexplainable stories tying back to Bigfoot in the mountains and on the shorelines surrounding the area of this small settlement.
So we're here in Port Renfrew. The First Nations tribe down the beach here has stories of seeing Sasquatch down on this beach, looking for clams and sifting through the sea sand. And up in the mountains behind me, there's all kinds of stories of loggers out there working on equipment and having rocks thrown at their service trucks, to hunters having run-ins with what they can only describe as Sasquatch. So tonight, we're gonna head off into the mountains and go see what we can find out there. See if we can get a strange encounter as well.
Before heading out to Port Renfrew, I had met up with a local hunter who had an extremely detailed and lengthy encounter with what he claims was Sasquatch 20 years ago. He wished to remain off camera to protect his identity, but agreed to be interviewed to share his story.
So, 20 years ago, my buddy and I were headed out bear hunting for the day.
Okay.
And we headed out towards Port Renfrew.
Yep.
And because he knew of a couple spots out there that he's seen bigger bears in the previous months.
Okay.
And he says, "Oh, I've been down this road before, just hang a right, and it takes us into a big slash." So I put my truck in gear and I start cruising out, and I'm looking down off to my left. There's a timber line that blocks the road from the slash.
Okay.
And I look down to my left and I go, "What the heck is that?" My buddy goes, "What are you talking about?" Like, "What is that?" And he looks over the window, out through my driver's side window, and he goes, "Where?" And I'm like, 75 yards straight down to our left. It started walking on 2 feet. And I'm like, "Do you see what I see?" And he goes, "Yeah." I remember what the hair looked like.
Yeah.
And it had like darkish black hair on it with brown mixed in.
Yeah.
It was walking perfectly normal on 2 feet, and we're watching it as it's walking, and then all of a sudden it come up to a clear spot where we drove in onto the slash on the right at the entrance, and then it turned around and looked right at us, and we could see it fully.
Like direct eye contact?
Eye contact,
Yeah.
looking right at us. He's about 75 yards away from
What
us.
was the shape of it? Like the face and the body?
Well, the body was muscly.
Yeah.
It was over 7 foot tall. This creature.
Yeah.
Hairy all over except for the belly. The belly it looked like it had been rubbing on something, or their hair was starting to fade off of it, or whatever.
Okay.
And the face was hard to really make out the eyes, but the face was completely hairy, long hair on the top of its head, down
Down to its shoulders,
down
kind
to
of?
its shoulder kind of thing. And it stopped there and looked at us for another few minutes. It kept on looking at us and walking across the road into the thicker part of the bush again. And once it was almost out of sight, it turned around and looked at us one more time.
Yeah.
And then it disappeared and it was gone.
Yeah. If you could show everyone in the world what you've seen 20 years ago, what do you think they'd be most shocked about?
What they'd be most shocked about is that there's Bigfoot.
The thing that strikes me most about this first-hand encounter and this story from Knob Point is both depict long hair down to the creature's shoulders. Coincidence? You decide. But I'm not fully convinced yet. I want to see it for myself. So we are heading off to what might be the most remote location in these mountains. A spot that probably hasn't seen much human traffic in the last 30 years. Our vehicles are capable enough to get us in. Hopefully this location will give us more answers than questions. Videos like this take a tremendous amount of effort to produce. It would mean so much to me if you would take the time to like the video or subscribe if you're not already. It really helps the video reach a broader audience of people just like you who might enjoy watching as well. Alright, after quite a bit of bushwhacking, I think we got to a location that barely ever sees humans, if not ever anymore. We're in like an intersection. We're in a there's 3 roads that split off, and they're all really, really old and overgrown, and there's game trails all through here. So this is going to be our camp for the night up on top of the mountain. We're going to go explore these game trails here. And it's gonna be a good night up here.
Come on, boys, I don't want to go by myself. Stay close.
Yeah, there's the game trail right here.
Yeah. The old road just keeps going up this way. It's definitely different up here. I'm used to having the forest floor like littered in brush that you can barely walk through. When we got up this high in elevation, it seems like it all just disappeared. And now we just have barren forest floor where you can kind of openly walk around up here. This is weird. Perfectly between all of the trees. Hey guys, look at this.
What's up?
There's this freaking branch wedged between all these trees perfectly. It's kind of weird.
It is, considering where's the rest of it?
I know. You can see like the end. There's an end snapped off there where it's basically rotted and fallen on the ground.
But I don't understand how this got here.
Yeah, all these trees are alive.
Yeah, and it's been here for a while.
There's game tracks over here.
Is there?
Yeah.
See, it's little pads. Yeah, that's a cat. Laid on its feet. We're just walking back and found another one of these weird tree structures. Let's figure out how this all came about. Yeah, there's no center structure on this. The only thing holding it up is this one that's bent up and through. And if we come over here, this has been here for a very, very long time. That's just all topsoil. There's no root system here. So this tree that's wedged through, I don't know how it got here. I've never really taken note to these before and looked at them closely.
People who have dedicated their lives to this topic have the belief that structures like the one we just found is a way that this supposed creature makes claim to a territory. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't a little spooked out setting up camp in this dense of a forest after talking about cryptid beings all weekend. It also doesn't help we stumbled across multiple cougar and bear tracks along the numerous game trails nearby.
Alright, we got a game cam positioned right here. We're on this game trail. And the reason that we set it here is because on our adventure earlier, I seen this branch that was wedged in between all these trees growing on the side of the game trail. So we're gonna put some apples.
Put it right there between that.
And I'll put an apple right here as an offering to a potential creature out here. And just for fun, because Sasquatch would be part of the ape family, I got a banana. I'm gonna put a banana up here. You know, now he's got options. Fruit of choice. And we'll go set another camera up on the other side of our camp.
Do it. Got one more apple.
Alright, well, since we're in the woods, it's quiet. Colin's over at camp. So, what the hell? Let's do a whoop. See if we get anything. Whoop! Come on, Colin. Nothing. Alright, continue on. Perfect.
With our game cameras and camp setup, we settled in for a long, cold night on the side of this ridge line in the remote mountains behind Port Renfrew, waiting for this supposed wild man of the woods to give us a sign he's out here.
Alright, so on our way up, actually, we found shoulder bone and like a leg bone of some sort, all covered in moss. They've been up here a while. So we're going to use these for our knocking tonight.
After an hour, we had nothing happen, other than the temperature dropping down another few degrees. nothing happened for the rest of the night.
Alright, we had a pretty uneventful night. I think I heard the bear or something off in the woods over there at about 5 in the morning. Other than that, it was just a little snowy. We woke up to a dusting around us. We're gonna go for a little walk here and go check on the game cams and see if they had any activity. Apples on the ground. Could have just been the wind. Probably was the wind. You see anything weird over there? Did you see anything weird, different? And we got nothing at camera too.
From newspaper headlines to blurry silhouettes caught on film, these stories have been part of our culture for generations, and new stories are always surfacing. Maybe that's why Sasquatch endures. It sits right at the edge of what we know for a fact and what still remains a mystery. It's the thrill of the unknown. And when we watch the old Patterson footage, when we read these accounts from people who swear they saw something, we're not just looking for a creature. We're looking for a mystery, for wonder, for a reason to believe there are still secrets in the wild places of our world. Maybe that's why people keep searching, not to prove something exists, but to be reminded of our imagination. Remember to take the time to get a little lost, and I will see you on the next adventure. Cheers.